In last week's video I set out to do the Everyday Objects Challenge, which this year we're doing something from our kitchen. This year I've chosen to do this grater, shown in the images here. The challenge was to do a front view, a side view, and a top view in 2D of this object, much like you would for a typical text drawing of pretty much anything you'd like to build. So I'm going to attempt that now on screen. I'm going to run through my front, side and top view, just doing them all in the same plan, all from the top plan view, and we're going to see how you might approach this as our final 2D object. So I'm going to start with the front view. That's going to be my first challenge, and I'm just measuring this up with my ruler here, and I'm going to break my grater down into 3 basic sections. So I've just measured the overall height, and I'm looking at about 220 millimeters. So I'm just going to draw a box to begin with that's that size. So in here, I'm going to double click on that, and I get my height offered up here, 220. And just measuring the across distance as well, my maximum across is 160 millimeters. So we're going to do that. In here, 160 millimeters. I'm going to place that with the center of the box, a central bottom point here located at 0, 0. So you can see I've de-checked the position at next click option, typed in 0 and 0 in here, and selected my bottom center position, no rotation, and hit OK. So there's my box, and I'm going to use that as that's my general outline. So that's the maximum size that this object's going to take up. So within that area there, this is actually broken up into 3 sections for me. 3 or 4, I'm going to try and do it as 3. I'm just measuring the black strip at the bottom, located in the image that I'm probably going to put on screen, and let's just call that about 10 millimeters. So I'm going to grab my rectangle 3-point mode here, just to mix it up a bit. I'm going to do this as the across bottom, and you can see I'm starting to move up here. I'm going to hit my tab key twice to get into that plus or minus Y section, and I'm just going to type in 10, and that restricts me there to either going up 10, or that's all I can do actually, because I've already locked the bottom points in. So I know that that's going to be 10 millimeters high. I'm going to left click, and there we go. That's one division. Just going to measure the next division up from there. Goes from 10 millimeters up to 150, so we're going to call that 150 millimeters up. So once again, same thing. Draw this box across, and 150. I'm just doing this just to give it kind of a breakdown for you guys watching, so you understand where my head's at. And that should leave us with the last one being around 60 millimeters, and I'm just going to check that now by just drawing this. There we go, 60 millimeters. So that's great. That's a really good start for us, and that gives us all the components that we need to make a start on this. So I'm going to grab all of those objects there, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose lock. And that means that I can click on them and use them as references, but I can't actually move them. There we go. So what should I work on first? I'll work on the top first, and then we'll go down the bottom, I think. So the top part is consisted of a handle, and the main thing I want from this is the width of the handle. I'm just measuring it across now, and I'm getting let's call it 115 millimeters. So we know that top section is 60 millimeters high. I'm going to choose a width of 115 millimeters and a height here of 60. I'm going to check this box, position it next click, and in this instance I can choose either the top or the bottom center. Let's mix it up and choose the top, and hit OK. So now, with my snapping on, you can see I can lock to this midpoint right here. So just making sure that you've got your snapping on here, snap to object, and that gives you all the corners, the center, and the centers of each of the sides. I can just jump in here, and you can see it gives me a snap there just the moment I get to it, snap. So there's my box there, and that there we know is 115 millimeters. So the taper that comes from my bottom point down here up to the top point meets that corner, so you'll get a trapezoid shape eventually. And we can draw that in right now if we'd like to. We can have a go at it. We could do it with a rectangle, so just giving you a couple options here. The rectangle that we already have down, or this one here. I could draw this rectangle, make a triangle in there, make a triangle in there. Select all 3 of those components, like so, do a clip, delete the 2 objects, and there's my trapezoid shape. Now I could have as equally done that with the polyline tool here on a straight mode, click, 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 click all the way around, and there you'd have it. So you can see instantly that's one of my components done. Let's focus on the handle again though. The handle's actually broken up into a couple of sections. So there's this kind of U shape made out of black plastic that you can probably see, and that's 10mm wide all the way around. I've just checked that then. And then the top handle piece is 15mm high. So I'm going to do this in 3 different components. So I'm just going to grab my rectangle tool again. I like this 3-point mode here, so I'm going to stick with it. So I've traced down the side here, click, and then I'm going across, pressing tab, typing in 10, hitting enter. Just to mix up our tool use, I'm going to grab the mirror tool, using the mirror, make a plane down here, and do a simple flip across, making sure it's on duplicate mode up here in the top left hand corner. And then we just need to complete that U by putting in the bottom rung, all the way across here, pressing tab twice to get to that plus and minus Y, or plus and minus up and down, typing in 10, pressing enter. I can't go anywhere else, so it has to be there, and then left clicking. Grabbing our cursor back, holding down the shift key, click, click, 3 objects selected, 3 rectangles up here in the top right hand corner, right click, add surface, and there we go, we've got a U shape there. So I'm just looking at this, and the handle is actually recessed about 3mm down. So I'm going to draw the handle in first, across here, lock in there, -15 as my plus and minus Y, hit enter, enter, and then using Control M for me, or Apple M for you guys if you're on a Mac, I'm going to put in a move here of -3 in my Y offset. So that means it's going to move down 3. Hit OK, and you can see it's moved that down a fraction. So I'm going to just work with that. There should be a rectangle in the back of there that I'm going to delete. So I should only have 2 components left there. There we go. And that's looking pretty good. Now I can round out those corners as well. I'm going to give that a go using my fillet tool here. And my fillet radius, let's try it at 5 and see what happens. So I'm going to left click, and left click, and left click, and left click. That's actually pretty good. That looks almost exactly like what I've got sitting here in front of me. So let's work on the bottom part now. The bottom part does just use a rectangle as far as I can see, and I'm going to have to redraw that trapezoid shape up above because it's actually slightly thinner than that, but that's okay. Just looking here, I can probably actually just use the rounded rectangle if I wanted, or I could just fillet all those edges out. Seeing as this has a height of 10, it means it's going to be equal either way, so just use the fillet tool across here, and across here should round it out almost perfectly. You can see I'm just choosing the kind of diagonal section that's rounding that out. Now you'll notice it's not quite accurate. Oh no, it's very good actually there. It doesn't quite taper out perfectly, but that's alright. So as I said, I'm going to have to redo this shape up here. I can do this by double clicking on it, and it gives me this point mode again. You can see it's automatically gone back to the reshape tool. And all I'm going to do is grab this point here and bring it in until it meets there. It's left me a little bit there because I'm actually on the addition mode. That's a tricky one up here. You want to make sure this is on the move polygon handles mode, which means as opposed to putting in an extra point where it was kind of darting this way and then darting back, I'm actually grabbing this point and pulling it back in. Somewhere about there. That seems pretty good. Do the same on the other side. I could mirror it obviously, but that's a good working model there. Now I'm actually going to unlock these components in the background, and I'm going to get rid of them, so I'm just working with this basic shape that I've got here. And I want that box as well. Unlock, delete. So you can see that's already starting to take form here, and next I'm going to have to work on this circle array. So the important thing about this array here that we've got going on is just to get one of them perfectly right, and then the duplicating and offsetting is really easy. So the first thing that I'm going to focus on is the circular part, which is actually the cutting part of this. Measuring it up, it measures 6mm. So I'm going to make a circle here, and I could do this anywhere basically. I can do it here off the side of my page. I just want a circle that's 6mm across. Now I've just started drawing this, not even noticing what mode I was in. I was in the across mode, which is fine. That's diameter, so from side to side. Press tab and type in 6, hit enter, enter, and there we go. Diameter of 6, radius of 3, that's half of the 6. And that's exactly what I want. Now comes the trickier part, this kind of oval teardrop kind of shape. I'm going to use the polyline tool for this, And I'm going to start off on point arc mode and we'll see where we go from here. So point arc is that exact circle mode, because I know it follows the 1, 2, 3 around here, and you can see it's just followed that radius. Now, this is the trickier part for me. I'm going to have to go, it kind of bends out a little bit, so somewhere out here, and just how far down I have to go. Using my ruler here, I'm measuring that from the center of that circle down. It's exactly 10 millimeters. So I'm going to go out 5 and then down 5. So length here of 5, that's great. Let's lock that in. So you can see it's giving me this, and then I'm going to come out about yay far. This is just a judgment call. And then I want the radius of this to come all the way down. It kind of bends almost all the way into a point. So I'm going to see if I can grab this center here. Where's my center? All the way down here. Pretty much to there. And then we go up. I'm going to try and lock to this center point again, just here. Which it's not letting me lock to because it's an arc. So we'll have to just do that all the way up into here. I'm going to change my mode to straight line mode and do this. Now this isn't the most exact way of doing that. The reason I've done this is because I couldn't get a snap there. But creatively, if I just grab my mirror tool and mirrored this across, I'd end up with this. Kind of a strange Pac-Man shape. And then I'm going to add the two of those together. And if I right click on that then, send to back, you can see I've got this kind of teardrop shape, which is pretty much what I wanted. I could curve that out a little bit at the bottom, but I'm not that fussed at the moment. Actually, I think we will. We'll just curve that out a little bit. So I'm going to do a technique here that I call a double cut, which some of you were asking about. If you can't use the fillet tool, what else can you do? Well, this is one of the things that I like to do. I'll grab my circle tool normally. 3-point mode is going to work quite well for this. So I'm going to put 1 point here and 1 point over here, and then you can see this third point. Wherever I put it, it's going to adjust the circle, so I can squeeze it in. And if I go down here, you can actually see I can adjust this circle to match my needs. So I'm going to just call it somewhere about here. Now, unfortunately, we can't just say we want this part of the curve here to match this part of the curve here. It doesn't quite work that way, but this is what I mean by a double cut. I'll normally make a rectangle. It goes from the 2 points that I defined and down here. If I grab the circle and bring that to the front, like so, cut once away, so I've selected the circle and the box, 2 objects up here in the top right hand corner, right click, clip surface. You can see if I press delete, I've cut the circle away from this rectangle down here. So now I can cut this object away from this object here, and that's why I call it a double cut, because you're using a template object to cut away. So clip the surface, this is now the selected object, hit delete, and you can see I've rounded that out nicely there. So using that, I'm going to select the 2 of those, I'm going to group that object, and now it's all about this tessellating pattern here. So how are we going to achieve that? I'm going to work on one of the rows first and just define their spacing. Grabbing my handy dandy ruler, I found out that the spacing here is 4 millimeters between each unit. So grabbing my duplicate tool up here, and I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them total for the first row. So duplicate up here, I already have 1 of them, so if I want 7 for the top row I need 6 more, so that's the number of duplicates is 6. And I know across here, what have we got? We can measure this from this side to this side. I've got 7 millimeters, just confirm that on mine here. 7 millimeters, that's pretty good. So I'm going to select this object here, put it on the duplicate, 6 duplicates, and I've got this, the move mode. So I'm going to start from here, which is this far side. We know across to here is 7, but we want 7 plus 4. So that's 7 plus 4 in here, total of 11. So that means that I'm accounting for the spacing between each unit. So it's going to duplicate from this point across to here, plus the spacing across there 6 times. Let's left click and see what happens. There we go. 7 units total, 4 millimeters spacing between them, and then all that's left to do is to center this up. So I'm going to measure how far down I have to come. Let's have a look here. So the top of the first one is sitting at 18 millimeters down from that black line. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab this, move all of these and lock them in at the center. You can see I picked that up by approaching that, grabbing the top center of that circle and locking into here. That's looking pretty good. Then using my move command again, Control M or Apple M depending on which system you're on, and I'm going to type in -18, moving down 18 millimeters, hit OK, and I know that's the start of my first row there. So just having a look at this next, there's a 3 millimeter spacing between that and the next row. So let's do that now. So I'm going to copy these, edit, copy from up here, or Control C, Apple C, whatever you're feeling, and I'm also going to paste these in place. So that means there's a duplicate on top there, and you'll notice I've got 7 groups still selected, and I know there's another set under there. So using my move command here, I'm going to move these down. So moving down, now just using the math in my head, I could have measured these, and I probably could have grouped it and it would have given me an option here, but I just know that that circle there was 6 millimeters across, and then from there we went 5 mil and 5 mil down. So I should end up in here with a -13 as my offset, and then I also need to -3 millimeters for the spacing between. There's a minus in there as opposed to a plus because I'm still heading downwards, so I want it to end up at -16 millimeters. Hitting OK, there's my next row down there, and the funny thing about this one is that it's offset as well, so we actually end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them as opposed to 7. So, I'm going to deselect those for a second, grab one of these just to mix it up, grab my mirror tool, straight down through here. You can see I've flipped one across the other side there because it's a symmetrical shape. I can do that. Then I'm going to grab this, I'm going to group this whole section, and I'm going to group this top section here as well. Now, to show off one of the other features that we should have learned about in the last lesson, I'm going to use the center command up here. So AlignDistribute, and I'm going to align to the center. Now I'm just going to try this here. I should be able to lock this object. And by locking that object, it means that this one isn't going to move, whereas this one will. So if I do that now, AlignDistribute, looking here, I want to go acrossways. You can see the text is going across. I want to align their centers. Hit OK, and you can see what's happened is this one here has had to move to align with this one here. It's quite handy. So now I know the spacing of those is correct. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to unlock this object now. Grab this one here. And I can probably just duplicate these if I feel like it. How many times? 1, 2. Oh, it actually gets bigger on the bottom one. We'll deal with that in a moment. So, duplicate mode. I want 1 set, 2 set. I want 3 extra sets of this. So 3 in here. Noting that I have the retain option still on here in the extra menu. And the spacing for these is quite easy. It's this down to here, which it's telling me is 28 millimeters plus 3. So that's the spacing. There we go. Duplicating made easy. So I'm just going to have a look here and make sure that it doesn't grow in any particular areas. It's only the bottom row that it actually grows out. So I'm going to grab this group here and delete that because that doesn't exist. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows, and that last row just has an extra one on each end. So I can just ungroup this. That was Control U for me, or Apple U. Gonna grab this one here, grab my mirror tool, find the center of that circle and flip that out, and then just to be cheeky we'll do that as well. So that's very accurate to what I've been looking at here online at the moment. I could obviously color it, and there is a curve around the side. I'm not going to bother with the details on the side at the moment, but let's move on to another view. So next view, let's do the side of this. I'm just going to use a lot of what I've got here to reference the next side view. The only real thing I need is the next width. So I've just measured the bottom here, and we're looking at 100 millimeters across, and the top section is 80 millimeters across. So let's work on that now. If I'm just going to do the box method as before, I can use my smart points here really effectively. If I just lock into any one of these points here, let's grab this center midpoint or this end point here, and you can see just using my smart points across here, do the height, which I know is 10 millimeters, but we can still use our smart points, And then our width across here, I'm going to do a -100 in here. So that's our general bounding box. And using the top up here as well, if I wanted to, I could say go to the center here. There we go, I've got that X and Y center lock going on. Coming out here, I know that I want to come out 40 millimeters. You'll see why in a second. And then up 10 millimeters, no, up all the way actually, as our bounding box to here. And then I'm going to use just the mirror tool across here and add those two together. So now I've got a box here that's 80 millimeters across, 60 millimeters high, and this one here 100 millimeters across, 10 millimeters high. Just to quickly complete this one, because we know what happens here, I'm going to use my fillet tool on a 5 millimeter radius, same as we did down the bottom, and just cut all those corners off. There we go, awesome start. So up the top goes to 80 millimeters. It also shrinks in a little bit at the top, which is good. Let's do that now. So if I grab my rectangle tool, same as I did down the bottom, I'm just going to make a rectangle, goes up to here, and then a little cheeky cutoff using a double clip through here, and angle on there as well. Right click, clip surface, delete. There we go, we've got that taper happening again. Obviously it's got a slight curve to it, but for the purposes of this exercise it's okay. Let's focus on the handle next. And I'm just having a look here, doing a bit of a measure. Looks like we've got 35 millimeters across is the general taper out, and another 10 millimeter lip on that. So 35 is through the center, so half of 35. I don't want to do the math, so I'm going to do 35 divided by 2. Seeing as this is a symmetrical object, and then we've also got a 10 millimeter high box. So I just like using as many rectangles as possible as guidelines for myself. Across to here, there we go. I'm going to grab that and flip it across the other side, like so. Add those two together. There we go. So I'm just kind of making margin lines for myself so I know where things go. I also want a 10 by 10 box in here, which I'm going to do now. Slightly missed on that. Holding down shift there, I managed to get 10 by 10 because shift makes it into a square, constraining the proportions. So I now want to draw a circle, and my circle is going to go from here and down. If I'm on 3-point mode, and this is why I love 3-point mode, anytime you're on a 45-degree angle here, you can see I'm locking in. I'll go this way, 45 degrees, and then if I come across here, you know that has to fit there, there and there, because it's 45 degrees all the way around. So that's a perfect fit inside there. And then I'd also like to use my circle tool for this next section. I want to go from here, here, and I want a circle that fits in there nicely. That one's looking kind of good. Need a bit more curve on the bottom. See if we can, no, we can't get that without clipping in. Let's go, let's call it there. So I'm going to do a double clip on this once again just to get the object up into here. Bring this circle to the front. Right click, clip surface, delete the circle. So I've got that nice little taper going on there. I've got this circle on, and then I'll flip this across to the other side and we'll see what happens. Using this rectangle that I built before, I'm just going to bring that down to fit into there. Delete this 100 mil, grab this, flip it across the other side. Grab all of those components there except for that back rectangle, right click, add surface. That's looking pretty darn close to my handle, I have to say. I could use a little bit more rounding down at that bottom by a couple more clips, but I think we're going to work with that for now. Cool, so the only thing left on this side is this kind of smiley face giant grate, I guess, in my grater. So it looks similar to the bathtub that we did in the first lesson, so I'm going to just pretty much do exactly what I did that time, except on a slant. So just so I get my outline here, I know that this is 70 millimeters long, and overall I'm going to guesstimate about 10 in terms of height. You can see I put that in wrong there. Click first, chuck in 10 here, there we go. So I'm going to grab my polyline tool here. I'm going to set it to the triarch mode. Going to just kind of do this to the center point here, back up again, put in a little circle like we did with our other exercise, down to the bottom here, up to the top here, do another similar circle. I'll see if I can lock that from there. Can you let me have that point? Yep. Just guesstimating. That's pretty good, I reckon. Get rid of that backing piece. Oh, actually, no, I'll use this backing piece here to make my next object. So if I bring that down to about here, I have to shrink that in a little bit. Just clip that out. You can see this is a very free-form process right now. And then it's just got some really nice fillets in the edge there. Probably, that's going to be too large, I think. Yep. Let's say 10. Let's see what happens if I do that. It's still too big. That's looking like it. Across there. Bring that in. Now I'll just check the center location of this inside my shape here. It's about 80 mil from the bottom. It's on a 45-degree angle, so just going to group both of these temporarily, and then using another command here from our rotate menu, rotate in the 2D form, 45 degrees. Now we want this to be anti-clockwise, so I'm going to throw a negative in there. Oh, no, I've done this the wrong way. Rotate 45 degrees. Is it? Looks like it's a little bit more than that. So I can use my freeform rotate to actually get that the way that I'd like it. Just visually, it's pretty much there. And then we just need the 80, so I'm just going to choose a center point here. I'm going to drag this down to here, using my move command, throw in 80 in here. That's pretty good. Get rid of this backing plate. I might just throw a tiny little curve, like a 3mm one, just onto here. And onto here. I'd say that's pretty close. So let's do the top view now. And the top view is obviously just going to be a combination of all of these factors here that we've already discussed. So we already know the width of this. Using these 2 points here, I can just drag this up, knowing that it has to be there. And I'm just going to guesstimate that height. And I'm actually just going to measure this. What have we got? 115, that's right. So I can simply go back to here, set a bottom locking here, and set a height of 115. Obviously I could be putting this here, or I could be rotating that left, which I just did with Control L for me, Apple L for you guys. And I could obviously place it over here. That's probably going to look better in this scenario. So looking at this from above, it's actually got this kind of semi-ovular shape to it. I'm going to try and cut that out from the sides, and then I'm going to work on the handle from that. So if we're looking at this like this, I'm going to grab my circle tool. Actually, I'm going to make a polyline out of this. I'm just going to choose a point about here, let's say, around here. I'm going to see if I can snap that to smart points. I can't, so I'm just going to have to guess over here. Actually, let's do it accurately. Grabbing my ruler, it's 4mm, so I'm going to draw a box here. Negative 4mm. Also going to mirror that to the other side. Obviously didn't get that through the center, so I'm just going to pick that up by the corner and snap it in. Now using our polyline tool, I'm going to also do these bounding boxes. I'm just going to quickly rotate them because I don't really care about the size. Around to here. Should have had that on duplicate, so I'll do it again. 1 click, 2 click, 3 clicks. So that's 1 click puts the pin in, 2nd click chooses the line, 3rd click rotates the line around the pin. So now I've got that, and I'll just shrink those in really quickly. They're going to have a width in this sense of that's incorrect. Let's do it the easy way. Group those, grab a handle, bring that into here. Cool. So using my polyline tool here on 3-point arc mode, starting from here, going up to here, getting a center lock, going to here, going to here, then to here, down to the bottom center, up to this top corner, top center, corner. That's the shape that I want. I'm going to select everything except for that and hit delete, and there we go. So I want to shell this out. Obviously if it was a 3D object I'd use the shell solids command, but in here we're going to use the offset command. So I'm just going to simply choose duplicate mode up here, and yeah, just offset by point mode. I'm going to grab this and you can see I can just start drawing in and out. So I'm going to choose a distance of negative, let me just measure this, negative 7 millimeters all the way around. I've got 2 objects now. Grab both of those, clip the surface, that'll be hollowed out like that. Now I'm actually going to keep this piece because I want to use it later on. So I'm going to undo that and put it back in place. We're just going to quickly do the handle, which is just straight across. I need my ruler out for this one. It is 28. It's the interior of the handle. So what we're going to do is draw this box here, and I'm going to take that up, and I'm going to do a height of 28 divided by 2. I'm going to choose my mirror tool and to duplicate that across there, add those 2 surfaces together. I just like doing that, it makes it a bit easier in my head. And just so we show off even more, we're going to right click and choose intersect surface, which will give us this lovely object, which is the intersection of those 2. Now if I just go back a step and put that back in place, I'm going to delete this one here, and then I want to just make this one here. I could have deleted that as well, which would leave it hollow, as you can see here, which is what we want eventually, but I'm actually going to copy it temporarily, and what am I going to do? I'm going to paste that in place. Then we need to expand that, so I'm going to use this here temporarily just to get that expanded correctly. So I'm going to use the offset tool again. This time I'm going to put it here on offset the original object, so it doesn't actually keep the, it just doesn't duplicate the object, sorry. Choose this edge here, bring that out to there, move that to the back. No I don't, move that to the back. I'm just using Control B there for that operation. And then I'm going to expand this one as well. This one here is going to expand out to that point there. Just get a smart lock on that. And get rid of that box. And then I'm going to move those to the back. And because I've still got that, I'm going to paste in place. And I'm going to actually cut that one there away from this object. Clip that out, and also and this one here, the base object. If I delete that, there we go, we can see all the way through it. Now obviously you'd see these somewhat in this perspective here, and you'd see the other bits on the sides and that kind of thing. Just for artistic purposes, obviously you could put lines in here to delineate those edge points, even though you wouldn't really see it, and some finer details in there, such as rounding out these corners. So I could do that, grab my fillet tool and do a little bit of artistic licensing on how this might look. That's okay, parallel lines. Fine. But that's pretty close, and that's what all of you should probably achieve. Looking at that with your kitchen object. That took me, what, a good half hour there to do that exercise, but we were running through it a little bit slower, and that's okay. So have a go at that. If you haven't done so already, that was my attempt at doing my kitchen object of the everyday object task. And let's move on and have a look at some of the other answers that we might have got for questions relating to the end of the video. So I'm now going to have a look at the technical drawings at the end of lesson, we're up to 2A. And just having a look here, there's 30 odd of these to do, so I'm going to break it up and do 10 at the end of each of these videos, just so you've got a week or so to get your head around it. It doesn't get too repetitive and that kind of thing. Now, one thing that you will have noticed now if you're watching this video is that the next lesson on layering is kind of essential to how you would approach this task, because you don't really want to draw them all on the same plane. I'll show you why. If I was just grabbing this box here and drawing this, and drawing this, and drawing this, and saying that these are all 3 different things that we're going to work on, similar to the drawing. And if I extruded all of those with Command E, so that they were 50 high, the moment I go to try and work on the side view of, say, this one here, which they're all grouped at the moment, I'm just going to ungroup that there. If I was trying to work on this object right here and I go into a left-hand view here, you can see I've got everything else here, convoluting my drawing and making it quite difficult to use. So I'm going to quickly run through just making a new layer, because that's all I really need to focus on right now, making a new layer and swapping layers. And then when you watch the next episode, which is 3A, coming out directly after this, you'll be able to see how you actually make layers, how you can use them, what different layers are, what you need them for, what they're good for, what they're bad for, all that kind of thing. So don't fret too much about that. Obviously, if you don't feel confident completing this task because you don't know enough about layers, you can just watch 3A and then come back here and see the solutions for this, see the solutions every week coming after. So just briefly, I'm currently up here on design layer 1, and notice this is a design layer. There's only 2 types of layers, design layers and sheet layers. So design layer, this is where we've been for the last little while. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you draw stuff here, you can draw it in 3D, draw it in 2D, all that kind of stuff. So there's a little button here next to it which is just layers, and it's got a little stack of paper there saying that these are the different layers of our drawing. I can left click on this and it will bring up this. This is the organization palette. Now I don't want you to look at any of these tabs up here just yet. We're going to get to them in lesson 3A, so don't fret. All you can see here is this is design layer 1. Now there's 3 little kind of tabs up here. You'll see a little black eye at the moment, and that says visible if you hover over it. If I left click here in the middle column, you can notice that it now says invisible. And the 3rd little column here, if I click on that, says grey. You also notice it's a black eye there, as though you can see things, a cross meaning I can't see anything, and a grey eye meaning it's greyed. So grey just means semi-translucent. And so you can just toggle between these for each of these layers. Just note that the active layer, which is represented here by a tick, is always going to be visible, just because otherwise you can't be working on an invisible layer. It just doesn't make sense. The only button you need for now is this new button down here. So if you've got design layer 1 selected and you click new, it will essentially take the properties of this, give it a new name, in this case design layer 2, which I'm perfectly happy with, and then hit OK. So you can see here I've got design layer 2, it's got the tick on it now, and you can just change that tick by left clicking here in this little column, left click, left click. So if I got design layer 2 selected, I can turn design layer 1 off to invisible, and I'll no longer see things behind it. So I'm going to do all these now, and you'll just see how I just make a couple more layers as we go. But I'm going to work in design layer 1 at the moment. I'm going to turn design layer 2 off, invisible, even though there's nothing there, it's just good practice for the moment, and hit OK. So looking at number 1, obviously it starts out pretty easy and it's going to get much more complex. So let's just run through this here, how I would approach this. I've just counted this here and I've got 8 by 4 by 5. So I've already typed in this here once, just practicing this myself. So I've got a width here of 40 and I've got a height of 80, as though I'm viewing it in plan view. And I'm going to choose to place this with its bottom down here at 0, 0. That seems pretty good. So I'm just working as though each of those boxes represented by the grid that I can just see faintly there is 10 millimeters. Just so I've got something to work with, I'm drawing to scale. So now I'm going to extrude that. I'm going to use Control E. You could have easily gone to the model menu and chosen extrude. And this has got an extrusion height of 50, as I've already typed in here. So I'm going to hit OK. And although it doesn't look like it's changed, when I go to, say, a left isometric here by hitting my 1 key, you can see I've got a box here now, which is really good. So I'm going to hit here to my 4 key and look at this here in a left-hand view. I'm going to grab another box. So this is drawing in 3D now. I'm going to start in this top corner here and move downwards. And I'm going to move down 1, 2, 3, so that's 30 down. Make sure that's a negative in front there. You can see I'm now locked on this negative 30 line here. So, because I'm doing a 3-point rectangle, I'm going to click once and then come across here and do a negative. And what do I want? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50. Negative 50 in there. So now I've got this. Now it was going into push-pull mode there, but I like to do this just to start off with. I go Control E for extrude. Gives that an extrusion of 40. This is demonstrating something a little bit different. I've drawn on this surface here, which is in a 0 plane. So when I go back to my plan view by pressing 0, you can see it's now offset from the object. So I just want to grab that left corner and drag that back in there. So you can see I've got these two boxes. They're now really nicely aligned. If I float around here and have a look at it, there we go. I'm going to grab both of those. So I've got two extrudes up here in the top right hand corner. Right click if I like, and subtract solids. Now it asks me which one do you want to cut into. Highlighted here in red, I can toggle between them. Obviously I don't want to cut into that because it'll just get rid of it. So I want to cut into this big red one here. Hit OK. You can see it's cut that section out, which looks exactly like what I wanted. That's perfect. So I'm going to return that to a plan view. Now, toggling to my next design layer. I obviously want to go into here and turn design layer 1 off. I don't want that anymore. And I could leave design layer 2 invisible if I like and just jump to it and make it active. You'll see it's gone. But where's it gone? If I drop down this here and jump on design layer 1, there it is there. Design layer 2 disappears. Handy things to know right there. So this next one, although similar, is in fact a little bit different. So therefore I'm going to draw it independently again. Just looking at it now, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 across still. Yep, but the height is actually 70 this time. And to save myself time later on, I can see there's already a notch cut out of this corner here. That's currently 20 high and it's 10 deep. So I'll just cut that straight out of there. Boom. Now it's also got another rectangle, and just because I'm in this view, and I like to try and do as much in plan view as I can before I have to jump into a 3D view. I think it's a good principle too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 40 high over there. And going across here, that makes sense. So I'm going to extrude that. 1, 2, 3. So that's 30 deep, that kind of cavity that it's got inside there. And the overall object, if I extrude that as well, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50 in there. So now when I go to my left-hand view, you can see I've already got the things that I need here. I'm just going to use my move command. Now notice that I went Control M then, as opposed to Control Alt M, or the difference basically up here from the move and the move 3D. Move 3D is in relationship to the 3D view, giving you that Z-axis, but it's in relation to the planes themselves. Whereas the move that I'm currently using is related to the screen that I'm looking at now. So when I go to the first move here and use the X and Y offset, it's relating to what I'm currently looking at. So the example I'll do here, I want to nudge this up 20 millimeters. 20. Okay. So that was relating to Y. Now this green axis here is actually Z in the real world, but in my current perspective, this is still X and Y in relationship to that move. So you really have to think about that when moving things. And if it's a little bit complex, I'll try and explain it further down the line. So now looking at this, you can see in my 3D view, this is intersecting properly. And if I make that clip, subtract, that's not the object. I want to toggle to that one. Hit OK, and there we go. That's looking pretty good. So I'm just going to whiz through these now. I might even speed it up a little bit. So I'm going to do 3 and 4, and then I'm going to jump back and see you at 5. So we've come to number 5, which is the first kind of tricky one. Those other ones were really quite straightforward in terms of their boxiness. So I'm just going to work now on this angled one, just to get you guys kind of through it. So once again, starting off here, just going to draw a box. It's 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 this time, just to mix it up a bit. That's good. And it's just a box, so I can go straight ahead and extrude that out. It's 5 high again, so 50 in there. So there's our box, that's our working there. Now I'm going to look at this in a front view, and you've just got to think of that as a triangle. You can see the triangle there. It's 3 wide and it's 1, 2, 3 deep as well, which is convenient for us. So I'm just going to draw, how would you normally draw a triangle when you're looking at it in 2D? You draw it with 2 rectangles, is probably the easiest thing to do. So here I'm just going to draw down. I'm going to type in negative, what are we doing? Negative 30 from here. That's good. And then I'm just going to draw this out here. And what do we normally do? We would do a 30 across. There we go. That's our regular old deal there. Now how would we normally do this? We would draw another rectangle by grabbing this. Drawing across here, down this way. 2 rectangles, grab the both of them, click the surface, delete that one, left with a triangle. Extrude that out. 1, 2, 3, 30. There we go. So now if I look at that in a top view, I'm going to grab that and drag it so it locks to the center of this. Boom, there it is. If I have a look at that, you can see the shape there. Grab the 2 of those, right click, subtract the solids from the bigger one, hit OK, and I'm just going to quickly render that so I can show you. There it is, fully done. So that's pretty straightforward. You just use your 2D objects like you would in the 2D world, draw them onto the plane just like I did then, and then just cut them, intersect them, anything you need to do, and then make them into a 3D object. Now there's an important setting up here that we're going to talk about right now, and I'll discuss it when we get to layers as well, because it's related to that. But it's whether you're in layer plane or screen plane. And basically layer plane, and I can demonstrate it to you now, if I try and draw this rectangle, it'll automatically switch here to automatic, which is very much the SketchUp model. So there's really 3 modes when drawing some of these, but there's 2 that you have to focus on. Automatic is the SketchUp kind of deal, where the moment I try and hover onto this, you can see each of these things will turn blue. And it's trying to adapt where you're trying to draw this 2D object on a 3D box, kind of like putting a poster on it. So the most predominant one will be here. If I try and draw it onto here, you can see it's drawing as though it's on that plane there. And if I draw this box, you'll notice that it takes that same perspective, I guess, or as though it's just been stuck onto that board there. Now there's 2 other modes. So this one's here is handy if you're using your push-pull tool, because it means you can then grab this, pull it back into the object, pull it out of the object. There you go. It's on the same plane as that. But there's times when you don't want that to happen. And there's times here, I'm going to draw another one, where you'd actually like that to be on the layer plane. So I'm going to switch it to layer plane here, and you can do it. I think it's the / key here that is telling me you can do it. So when I've got set to layer plane, it'll be relating to this, your blue dashed world that we're normally used to drawing in. So you can see the moment I start drawing, it's relating to this plane here. Okay, it's relating to the X and Y axes as they're meant to be. X running through here, sorry, and Y running through this way. Nope, other way around. Y running through this way, green line, red running through this way. And then there's another option here, screen plane. And screen plane's really difficult because we're currently in an isometric view. That's an isometric view that we're looking at there. Screen plane is like a bug on your windshield. So no matter what 2D object you draw, it's never drawn in 2D. It's drawn in the view we're currently looking at, and it's as though it's stuck to our windshield. So there's 3D objects in play here, but this is always predominant. And I'll show you here, if I rotate this around, see how it's just stuck to our windshield? It doesn't actually move until we get to an adaptive part. So here, if I'm looking at this here, in this front view, and I then extrude this object, if I choose extrude and put an extrusion on it, all of a sudden it will have taken depth from the view that we were looking in and popped out. Does everyone see how that worked? I'll do it again for you. So here I am in an isometric view, or any other random view that I've chosen. It could be plan view just here, it could be this view right here. If I draw a rectangle in the screen plane mode, here it is, it's just stuck to our windshield. See, it's just floating there. No matter what I do to this drawing, spin it around, it doesn't change. The moment I go to a view, and I'm just going to choose an obscure one now, like this crazy isometric I've just chosen. If I extrude that, and I'm going to choose another number here, maybe 60mm, it will have popped out of the page in the orientation it currently is, and you can see there it is there, floating on that weird angle that we were looking at it in. That's all of a sudden changed my entire mind. Okay, so 3 important differences there. What were they? When you draw a rectangle in a 3D view, you get 3 different options: automatic, layer plane, screen plane. Automatic adapts to the 3D objects that you're using and chooses the plane that it thinks is appropriate to your drawing. Layer plane chooses the layer plane, as you can see here, the blue box that you're kind of used to, which is most predominantly when you're starting a drawing where you want to live. And screen plane, which is handy if you want to draw something from here or here, but you're having issues with the automatic snapping. I'm going to run through that in lesson 3A again, just because it's so important. So, just to clean up this, get rid of that, get rid of that. We've successfully made that. And now I'm going to move on forwards and just do the other ones here on an angle. I just don't know which numbers they are. I'm probably going to do numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and I might come back to you for 10. So I'll see you soon.
City lights, eyes on the wall, through another sleepless night. I just wanna be alone again. And I'm remembering I was a wreck when we met at the dollar store. I should have just made a run for the exit door. I was into you, but now I'm in too deep. I was over my head, but you said that I'm safer in your arms. I was over my head, so I fled to the comfort of your charms. I guess at the time you were so idealized. Now in the light of the day I realized I was into you, but now I'm into deep. And now I think that it is sad that I had to get tangled in the wires of your snare. It's sad that we had to evaporate and vanish in the air. I don't care if you go, I don't care if you go, I don't care if you up and walk away and just leave me with a wave in the dark. I don't care if you go, I don't care if you go. And now I see that it never really mattered. It's just another chapter to close. I don't care if you go. Do what you want. I am tired, I am sick of this. I never wanted to even admit to this. I was into you, but now I'm in too deep. And now I'm telling you, I may be awake, but I never really opened up my eyes. I may be awake, but I never really wanted to rise. And I don't care if you go, I don't care if you go, I don't care if you up and walk away and just leave me with the wave in the dark.
10, which is the last one for today. Hopefully you've got the idea from 6, 7, 8, 9, working our way up here, that this is just a triple triangle cut out of this thing. So once again, we're just going to start off with our box, double click, because I love the double click. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's a 7 by 5, just to mix it up a bit. There we go. I'm going to extrude that all the way up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 high. There we go, so that's our starting box right there. And it's just 3 really easy cuts through here. So I'm going to draw a box, same as I've been doing through the last little sections. I just like to do this just so I know where I'm heading. So I'm going to do a minus 40 on that. And it goes all the way across and leaves just one square. So where's that take us to here? 40, must be 40. There we go. Now I'm not going to draw another box, I'm just going to do this and this. And I'm going to get rid of that box, and I'm going to just extrude that. Now, the extrusion, as you've seen me do, can just be far greater than the length of the object. So I know this is 70, so I'm just going to give myself some room to make it 90. Because we're cutting this object away. It doesn't matter how far it extends beyond this point or beyond this point. We don't even care. So you can see that's my first cut. I'm actually going to do that right now. Zoom in so you guys can see that a bit better. Right click, subtract, hit OK, and there it is. That's the first planar object. And we've just got 2 on the sides there as well. So I'm going to look at that in the front view. Here we go. Drawing my box straight down to this point here. I'm going to just do it by numbers because my snaps just aren't working in this view. In -20, there we go, like that. I'm going to draw another rectangle straight across here and out that way. Get rid of the original. And I just know this is mirrored on the other side. So to save time, find my mirror tool straight down the middle there. Grab the 2 of those, holding down shift there. Right click. No, actually I just want to straight extrude those. So model, extrude. Ask me for an extrusion once again. I can just hit enter because that's far beyond the 50 millimeters that was there. Drag those 2 into place so they're fully running through the object. Grab the object as well just to make sure. Subtract. I want to cut it out of this red one here, the central object. Hit OK. And there you go. That's pretty much it. That kind of strange pyramid almost structure. So looking at that, I'm going to drop this down. I got 10 design layers done. That hasn't taken too long there. Let me just check my time. I'm at just over 20 minutes, 20 and a half minutes at the moment, so that's not too bad. Yeah, so hopefully you've had as much success as I have doing this. If not, feel free to ask some questions in the comments, request videos on if you need to see a particular example, if you need me to run through something, if you missed something. Otherwise, feel free to move on through to whatever you've got on for the rest of the day, or you can head on through to 3A. It's up to you. I'll see you soon.